Welcome back, Warrior Family.
Yay!
We're very grateful you're here this and every week.
Yes.
We have an awesome episode for you today.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Let's just put that out there in the world. It's going to be awesome. And here's why, I guess, because we are in control of it and also not in control of it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like we're in control of like the topic and what we discuss and maybe the intention behind why we're discussing it, but we aren't in control of like, how people perceive it or what happens after it's out in the world.
I'm not in control of what you're going to say to me.
That's true. Or the questions you're going to ask me.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes that can bring up a good amount of anxiety.
Yep.
Yep. I can't control all of it. So, Warriors, if you haven't guessed yet, our episode today is about control.
Mm-hmm.
And what it feels like to be in control. Do we enjoy it? Is it like sometimes a need?
Mm-hmm.
Like I need to be in control of this situation or this person or this moment, or what happens if I'm out of control? What goes on with us? So yeah. What does it feel like to go spiraling out of control?
Yeah. All of the beauty of being in and being out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's intense. It's intense. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that you and I both have a little bit of a control freak like nature to us.
What? How dare you?
No, you can't be talking.
Never.
You can't be talking about this, Margot and Abby. No. No way.
We practice mindfulness. We're totally untethered.
Oh my gosh, we're free. We're just so free like birds.
Yeah.
Please. I can't even get through these sentences without sound like we sound like the most sarcastic people ever. We wish we were that free flowing and always able to let everything go. It's a wish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Warriors, we're going to be sharing with you a little bit about how control shows up in our lives, what it feels like when we're out of it.
Yeah.
And some of the ways that we practice navigating the anxiety that comes up with the need for control, or that kind of impulsive need that at least we feel when we're out of control or hoping to regain control.
Yeah.
So, Abby, tell us about your control issues.
So, it's so funny. You and I have been talking about doing an episode around this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't explicitly said it to you, but I kind of was putting off writing the outline for this. Because nothing felt right. Like I didn't want it to just be like a super controlling episode about control. And, like all these things came up, like how do you approach talking about control when it's like so ingrained in part of who you are and everything. And then I recently heard the phrase of someone saying, I don't know about you, but I'm a control enthusiast. And I was like, oh, that's a great reframe.
Yes, we're always looking for those reframes.
Yeah. And so the moment I heard that, I was like, okay, I'm ready to write out like an outline for this. Because control can sometimes feel, first of all, like when you hear someone's controlling, at least for me, if I hear someone's controlling, I'm like, I don't want to be around them. Yeah. Right. Like it has so many negative connotations to it. But when I heard control enthusiast, I was like, okay, there's good stuff to talk about when it comes to control too. Right.
Yes.
Like, so, okay. So that's the backstory.
I love it. I feel better already.
Okay. So let's see. So much of my life, I needed to feel in control. And I think a lot of that obviously comes from anxiety. It comes from just feeling really uncomfortable in my body, feeling really uncomfortable, like interacting with other people in social anxiety situations. And so feeling like I was in control of situations, of my environment, of myself, how I present myself, made me feel, at the time I didn't know, but it made me feel safer. It made me feel like I could approach things and try new things because I had at least control over me. right? But maybe I had control over the situations and stuff. And so it all was coming out from anxiety. But again, I wasn't even diagnosed with anxiety until like my early mid-20s. So a lot of my controlling, I wasn't even aware of or why it was coming up. It was just who I was. And so I remember it was before I was diagnosed with anxiety. I was working at a school for children on the autism spectrum. And this was, I've shared before how I've had like 5 jobs, and this was during the 5-job time. So there was a lot going on. There's a lot of things to control. And when I first started working in the school, I first started as a teacher's aide, and then eventually I moved up to a teaching assistant, which felt good because it was reinforcing that all of my controlling was good for the class. But right from the beginning, when I first started teaching there, I was taught that there was a wrong way and a right way to navigate different behaviors, to avoid meltdowns, and also to keep everyone safe. Because there were times in the classroom where unsafe things would happen. Kids might throw stuff at us. They might go to hit us or attack us. Or, not to get too, deep into this, but like children might eat their bowel movements. And so you need to be in control of yourself and your reactions, right? And you need to have plans in place if challenges come up. And so a lot of, what was reinforced was like, if we did all the right things, then these safety issues wouldn't happen. Of course, that's not true.
Right.
But me and the kids, and probably a lot of the teachers, like really thrived with routine, thrived with clear expectations. And again, this like reinforced for me that as long as things were in control, like things would work out. So this led me to like taking on way too many jobs in the classroom, right? While also working with, there was 5 other, sometimes 6 other adults in the classroom and 9 kids in a classroom. That's a lot of human beings, right? So there's a lot of chaos in that. And so like when any tasks needed to be done, I knew that I would do it perfectly. So I took on so many added tasks, right? If there were certain kids that had certain like unsafe behaviors, I knew I could be with them. I wasn't afraid of them. I knew how to interact with them. So I took on a lot of the more challenging behaviors. It felt good doing this stuff. It felt good. Like I had a really good rapport with the head teacher. I had a really good relationship with the kids. Like they loved me. But it just got to be so much where, I was really super stressed, right? Because I kept putting more and more and more on my shoulders so that I could be in control of it, so that mistakes don't happen, right? Because I don't make mistakes, right? It just started to be a lot because it was rippling into all these other areas of my work lives as well. I had all of these different things where if I took on the tasks, if I was the one in control, right, everything was ordered, there is no chaos, right? But then I have so many responsibilities in all of these areas. So the thing is that feeling in control felt good. It still feels good. It feels good. It's like, I'm in control of this. If anything fails, it's only on me, but it's not going to fail because I overthink and overanalyze. Is think or overthink. Oh no, I need to control this episode.
But that's what editing's for.
Yeah, no one knows my control of editing. But like it felt good, right? And it gave me, being in control and things working out gave me a sense of pride. It gave me a sense of joy, right? People would come to me and ask me for help with stuff. And then, I had control over the situations, and a lot of times they went well. So it all felt really good. It was also extremely exhausting. It was also very draining.
Yeah.
I was constantly overthinking and overanalyzing myself and everybody else. And it caused a lot of trust issues because I didn't feel like I could hand over the control to other people. I didn't trust them. Right. And
Yes.
you're smiling.
I mean, it's like speaking my life right now. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. But the other flip side to that is that when I did feel out of control, right, I felt useless.
Mm.
So feeling in control made me feel useful. And so, the other part of it, and like this goes into a little bit of a different story, but it connects, is that underlying all of that is fear. Right.
Yes.
There's so much fear in giving up control, and the fear was different in different places. Like in the school, the fear was someone getting hurt, right, or me getting fired. Although I was a good teacher, I don't know why I would have the fear of being fired, but that's always a fear
Totally.
in a workplace. Is it? I don't know.
I was about to say, it's so funny because after you said it, it was like, is it though? It's like, you want do people that are not anxiety warriors ever think about being fired, regardless of how amazing they are at their job?
Like, I was really good in this job, so why did I ever have a fear of that? It's so
because
silly.
Anxiety.
Yes, thanks, anxiety. I just realized you're creeping up in that part too.
Yeah.
So at the same time I was working in the school, I also worked in a restaurant, and in this restaurant, the boss was a little bit of a jerk, right? I mean, there's a lot of jerks in a lot of restaurants. But part of his thing was he had higher expectations of the females than the males in the restaurant. And yeah. Yeah. And there was this male server, and he was younger than me. He was like his early 20s. And he didn't care about stuff in the restaurant. He just didn't care. He wanted to make his money. He loved standing in the back of the kitchen and talking to the chefs and joking around. And the thing is, like, even if I wanted to not care, I would have cared, right? I would have cared. Things need to be done a certain way. But the other part was the boss would always lecture me if the silverware wasn't right, if a table wasn't attended to in a right amount of time, even if it was in this kids section. And, and he never held him accountable. And so the way that manifested was either one, I needed to do everything because otherwise the boss was going to yell at me. And he only yelled a few times, but the thing that he really loved doing was lecture.
Ugh.
And I hate being lectured at for stuff, especially when it's not my fault.
Right.
Like,
gee, I wonder why that would bother you.
Yeah. And then you can't say anything. You can't. I mean, the time I finally spoke up, I lost it on him and quit the job because I was like, you can't keep speaking to me like this and holding me at a higher expectation than you're holding this guy.
Right.
We're supposed to be partners in this. So I still have some baggage around that time.
Yeah. Well, I got some light rage listening to you share that.
Yes. And so in that environment, the control really manifested in fear of being lectured and losing my job in the restaurant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though I was a top-notch waitress, or server, or whatever we call ourselves. So I was like a top-notch server, and I had reoccurring, customers, and they loved me, and I was great at selling, which is funny because we recently talked about the uncomfortableness of selling. I was really great at selling in the restaurant. I always got people to get mushrooms and onions on their steak.
Extra dollars on the check.
Yeah. And so the fear there was just like the interactions with the other people that were going to hold me accountable for things that I shouldn't have been held accountable for. And so this impacted my behavior in the restaurant in a sense where, one, I definitely came off as a nag, which really upsets me. It's like, hi, do your job, and I don't have to sound like a nag, right? Mm-hmm. But so I came off as a nag, or there was definitely times where I was passive aggressive, right? And I would say passive aggressive statements to the other people in the place that weren't pulling their weight. Or I would just be totally silent and do the jobs of me and everybody else, which was, caused a lot of like rage.
Yeah.
In the school, it was not as similar. I didn't nag as much, and I wasn't passive. Actually, I don't think I nagged at all. I wasn't passive aggressive. I just felt like in the school setting, if the people weren't following through on the agreements that we had about how to navigate certain situations in the classroom or the roles that we were going to have, I just did it. And I gave the silent treatment, and I, was like standoffish, but it was done. Right. And so and so that's basically how like behavior showed up. And I probably came off like a bitch. Right. But I didn't learn to communicate more, just honestly. Right.
Yeah.
I guess I was afraid of being rejected or being misunderstood. And so it was just easier to take on all the tasks and then be angry at how, the lack of other people's abilities or whatever I was angry about.
Yeah.
But I had this aha moment, and I was at the time working in the school, and I had walked past this mirror. And like, as I walked past this mirror, I saw myself, and I just had this thought of like, damn, you have some control issues. And then I was like, wait, what?
Like, who said that?
Where did that come from? And at the time I was busy like doing a million things. Right. So I was like, okay, interesting, shut up reflection. And then when I got home, I was like, that was so weird. And I started to really think about it. And I realized that, I had to start letting go of some stuff. And not only that, it like freed me up to feel like I could go travel. And then I ended up going to Australia because like I could leave the classroom and everything wouldn't fall apart. Right. And so it really, like, when I realized, okay, I got to start practicing letting go. The other thing that came up was like, okay, I need to start practicing asking for help. Yeah. I know you feel me. I see it in your face.
It's like all of it. This episode is going to be so dull when I start talking because it's going to be like me saying 98% of the same stuff you've already said. I wish I were lying. Oh God.
Okay. I'll try not to say anything else.
No, it just, this is why we podcast together. This is how we came to be friends. Right. So like, I don't think anyone listening, any of our like listeners are going to be too stunned to learn that we share a lot of the same stuff.
Yes. Okay. So what I learned was, yes, I can start asking for help. I can be clear in the help that I need. It's not like, hey, all, I need help. It's, hey, I need someone to set up the calendar for tomorrow so I can do this, right? Or it's like asking a specific person, knowing their strengths, saying, hey, can you send off this email? Or can you help me cut out all of these art project things for the next day, right? And so that really helped me like letting go of some of the stuff. Also, this is still an active practice of mine, even though we are not talking about active practice yet, but people are not mind readers. Yes. And I have to keep reminding myself that. Yeah. Like constantly, like even like my mom is not a mind reader. My husband is not a mind reader. My dogs are not mind readers. Like even to this day, I need to remember that people are not mind readers and that if I need something done and I want some help, I need to use my words, right? But this has been like an ongoing practice since that aha moment. Yeah. Because in my mind, people should just know what I'm thinking and what I want. Right? Yeah.
I'm with you.
And then the other thing that's really just helped me like going with the flow after this aha moment, is just really having clear expectations and goals so I don't take all the pressure on. Right. And so like you and we are doing this podcast. I know what the expectations of what you'll do and what I'll do. And there's not like, oh my God, now I need to do everything for the podcast. Right. but it applies in all of my areas, in relationships, in work. It's like, what are the clear expectations? Who's going to load the dishwasher?
Yes.
When you're at a job, like, what are my expectations at the job and what are not my expectations, And so that has really helped me too. And so when I notice like some of those control issues popping up, when I notice having like the feeling of like overwhelm and burnout and like annoyance towards others, I'm like, oh, what expectations aren't being met, or what's not clear, or what needs to be said.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
yeah,
I still navigate my control issues.
Yes, we do.
They're still here, but they're a lot less stressful than they were like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, Yeah.
Oh, I mean, first of all, there's so much power in everything that you've said, not just because your story is kind of aligned with mine in almost nearly every way, but it's what's powerful about it is that, reflectively speaking, we can look back at the people, the control issues, quote unquote, that we used to have with the different perspective. Like, I know for me, when I look back at how controlling I was, and yes, active practice for me too, this kind of stuff crops up for me all the time, still all the time. Doesn't matter how hard I practice my mindfulness and all the stuff I'm going to get into. But, I love that we can, and that you just illustrated so beautifully how you can be reflective about how many years ago it's been since it was that bad.
Yeah.
Right. And how much progress you've made in that time.
Yeah.
And so like my takeaway from what you said is just kind of like, it's a practice, but it gets better, right?
Yeah.
It gets better with practice. Just like anything we do and try gets better with practice. It may not feel good. It's going to suck for a while. It's going to be super sticky and uncomfortable, maybe more than we'd like. But like with anything, the more we do it, the more we try it, the more we sit with the discomfort, the more we ask for help, the more we're brave, right? The easier it gets. And the quicker we're able to get to the place of asking for what we need or letting go, right?
Yes.
Because we've been practicing for so many years.
Yes.
So that's where the power is in everything that you said. I noticed this duality in some of those things, in some of your story, which is just like, there's the good part of control. And then there's the part that like, oh, you just wish that it didn't exist with the control. Right. But it does. That's what control is. And my hero, Glennon Doyle, she's always talking about the sense of being held and free. Right. And that kind of came up for me when you were talking. It's like, when we're raising children or when we're teaching or when we're, trying to make sure that everything runs smoothly in a restaurant, like we want to have this sense of, I'm safe, right? I'm safe here. I can feel supported by my coworkers, by my family, by my friends, whatever the situation I'm in. But I also need the freedom to step away to go to the bathroom. I need to be able to let go of like, you know what? I can't handle that table right now. And I need you to get on it, right? Like, and then you realize that because everyone's in that same basket, or because you're surrounded hopefully by people that love and support you or work with you, and their interests are hopefully aligned with your interests of safety for the kids or a smoothly run kitchen or whatever, that yes, they're going to catch you. Right. Yeah. So it's like that duality of like, you can be held and free at the same time. And I think that's the sweet spot for us anxiety warriors that have control issues.
Yeah.
And something else came up for me, when you talked about the passive aggressive nature, and some of the behaviors that would come out when you were feeling burnt out, or how you would give some of your coworkers the silent treatment after like you took on the millionth task at the school. It's like that level of, or lack of appreciation that we feel.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And then when you have that aha moment, it's like, oh, but so much of that is because I didn't set those clear expectations.
Yes. Right.
Because I didn't ask for help.
No.
Because I took on that 10th assignment when I already was exhausted and overwhelmed and my plate was overrun. Yes. So like, I'm more, these aren't questions really. It's more of just like me reflecting what I feel like I heard and what I had internalized from what you shared. And so much of it I deeply, deeply relate to, as we'll learn. But, I mean, so I guess my question for you, like my parting question before we move forward, is like, when this type of control anxiety shows up in your day to day, what is like the first narrative you tell yourself? Like when you notice like, okay, I'm not in control of the situation and I want to be, or I feel this thing in my body and I feel like it's related to control. Like when you've activated the part of your brain where like this feeling has to do with my level or lack of control in this moment or with this
Yeah.
person or situation. What's like your first go-to narrative to like help you on the plane of getting to the letting go?
Yeah. I mean, it's not even a narrative. Like my first go-to is a really long exhale.
Mm,
That is like one of my, just like somatic holds is one of my things. Like one of my
mm.
things is when I notice like I'm feeling grippy, I'm feeling enthusiastic about grabbing on to some control there, you know.
Enthusiasm. I
Uh,
love it.
yeah. I take a really long exhale because part of what happens in my brain is like a flood of thoughts. It's like a big cloud of overwhelming thoughts. And otherwise I feel like if I don't take that exhale, I can't think clearly about the next step. And then I'm just
Mm.
like, you know, the first thought comes to mind, like I'm just like a chicken running around with its head cut off, which I don't even know why that's the idea that comes, but that's how it feels. It's just
Yeah.
like chaos. I don't know what I'm
Chaos.
doing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Right. And so for me, when anything arises that's overwhelming, where I want like to feel like I'm grounded and you know, in some form of control, it's controlling myself with a really long exhale. And then the narrative is like, okay, what needs to be done in this? Like, do I need to communicate? Do I need to step away? Do I need
Right.
to, you know? But that's really it. And then narratives that I work on, right, that aren't just like the go-to that come are stuff like I can handle this,
Mm.
right? And then from there figuring out what needs to be handled. Now I will say, because when you were talking about active practice a moment ago, and how these practices are like lifelong practices, and then you talked about the unappreciation factor, like feeling unappreciated. Two other thoughts came to mind, and those were, one, that some of control comes from perfectionism, wanting
Mm-hmm.
to feel like I can do something perfectly, which I now know isn't possible. Like it's got to be enough. It's got to be enough. Right. But the
Yes.
other thing that came from control was people pleasing too.
Yeah.
So I would
Yeah.
do so much to please others, to be liked, to be like, you know, like Abby's dependable or she deserves
Right.
a raise or whatever it is.
Held in high regard.
Right. She can get it done. And so when you were saying that, it's like there's been an active practice in letting go of control, but there's other active practices of not being a people pleaser and not being, you know, like getting stuck in the perfectionism loop. And so all of
Yeah.
those different practices also support me when I notice that feeling of control come up. It's like, oh, do I want to be in control because I want this perfect? Or do I want to be
Mm-hmm.
in control because I want this person to like me? Or do I want to, you know, be in control because I'm feeling anxiety? And then it's
Right.
like after that long exhale, I can figure out the next step, because having an idea of why I want that control, what it's going to give me in that moment, I can then figure out how to move through that.
Right. It's like the intention. What's the intention behind my desire for control right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Why do I
good.
feel so enthusiastic about controlling this moment? That's my new
It's
narrative. That's
it
it.
really, it's so powerful, right?
Yeah.
Because even though you can still look at it and say these, because the word enthusiasm sounds like inherently good,
Yes.
we know that you can be enthusiastic about a lot of terrible things
Mhm.
too, right? But it is a good reframe just to sort of be like, okay, we don't have to call to call it every aspect of it. It's a control issue. It's a
Right.
controlling person, control problem. It could just be like, I'm very enthusiastic about making sure my people are safe and that things are running
Yes.
smoothly and that, you know, everyone's feeling good and and is happy with my work or my work ethic and all of that, while also nourishing the parts of me that we're still healing. Like
Yes.
not being so much of a people pleaser, like
Yeah.
trying to recover from perfectionism, which is like a freaking disease. It's
Yes.
crazy.
It's horrible. I love it. See,
Uh,
even when you said it, when you said the reframe, I'm enthusiastic about controlling, you know, making sure
yeah.
my people are safe, making it felt so good. My heart was like, yes, I feel
Yeah.
seen. Right.
There you go. Right.
Yeah.
Because we kind of all have to look at some of the things we grapple with as anxiety warriors as things that we can make more positive,
Mhm.
right? Because they aren't necessarily leaving us or certainly not anytime soon. As we always say, everything we do is an active practice because warriors' jobs aren't just done, right? We're not just like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm anxious right now and now that's over. No, it's like it's always kind of underlying, right? I think for so
Yeah.
many of us. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a really I'm glad the reframe supports you. It's supporting me.
Yes.
You know, I think it's just it's a nice way of looking at something that I had thought previously it was like this is solely a negative thing.
Yes.
It's like, there are some positive things about a person that wants to make sure everyone's safe and happy and things are going and running smoothly.
Mhm. Yeah.
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 Oh, brother.
So I am excited to hear my story in your mouth now.
Like literally almost, I mean, so much of what I feel like there were certain sentences that you said that like were like literally written in my own notes for what I plan to share today. It's bananas. But at the same time, it's not bananas because this is why we're here.
Yes.
Yeah. So much of what you shared comes up for me as well and always did. Most of my need from control stems from a deep desire of having things feel orderly and routine, kind of like you had suggested. This looks like list making. It looks like detailed plans, time boundaries, and most prevalently being the person who makes all the decisions.
Yes.
Just like all the decisions are mine. It was always kind of an unsaid thing in most of my relationships outside of my family that I would be the decider or the organizer or the planner. I would be the one to create the events or the outings, to collect the money for the shared endeavors, to host things. And in most ways that felt really good, right? And right to me, kind of like you said. So I took this responsibility and ran with it. It's like, oh, I'm a leader. Everyone's looking to me to get this thing done because they know I can handle it, because they always have fun after, things are said and done and whatever. And so I took it on, I ran with it. But then when I feel overwhelmed or tired or just get sick of feeling like if all goes wrong or if things don't go to plan, that it's all my fault, right? Then I would become irritable. I would complain, even if it was just in my own head, or I would complain to Adam or like my mom or somebody about it. But I wouldn't necessarily communicate the issue or the problem I was having with the person or the situation or the community of people in which the problem was with.
Yes.
There you go. That's obviously not good, right? And the same was true in my work life as well, which is going to be the focus of my story. In my classroom over the years, I was always a head teacher. And so there's the responsibility that comes with being the leader of a group of tiny little ones. And, like you taught children with special needs. And so it's not similar, but I taught very young children. So like 3 to 5-year-olds, and they have very, very unique needs as well. So a lot of intention has to go behind everything I say and do, and keeping those kids at that age safe is obviously extremely important for millions of reasons. And, it's funny when you were talking about all the rules or regulations that are mostly state or they're considered best practices for certain environments with certain groups of kids or populations of children that are considered like, here's what you should do to keep a child safe in this situation. Here's what you need to do. There are certain rules about like where your hands can go on a child's body, especially if they're having, a meltdown of some kind. They need support. And so like, yeah, a lot of that really landed for me in my work life as well. There's like if I'm absent, this was my biggest one. If I'm absent, what will happen? Yeah. Right. Everything's going to fall off the rails. The train is off the track. The hot air balloon is coming down, like all these, I don't know why these transportation metaphors are popping in my head, but
a hot air balloon is coming down. Terrifying.
So terrifying. And I hate heights. What am I talking about?
No, but that's it. That's how it feels. It's like,
terrifying.
There's no control. The hot air balloon's going down.
We're all going down, kids.
Yes. If you don't show up to class.
Right. It's just me. Right. It all felt like, oh my God, it's about me. Right. So, if I'm out, what happens? I'll be behind. I'll be behind in my lessons, which means my kids will be behind, which means that they won't hit the milestones they need to hit by this date. which means that now I have people, above me that are going to question me about that. I have parents, right? So like it would kind of become a snowball. Like the one thought of like, I'm kind of feeling under the weather. I should probably take off tomorrow so I don't, get my teaching assistant or anyone in my school or including my students sick.
Yeah.
But no, I can't, because here comes the snowball of rumination of what's going to go wrong. And so I would just spiral just thinking about it. And so I'm like, no, I can't. I have to be in control all the time. So everything that the train keeps moving on smoothly. There's no bumps in the road.
That's right.
So I would never call in sick. I would at least every day I'd be 45 minutes early for work. So like the idea of not being there, right? Yeah. So I would just completely burn myself out. I had zero self-care.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the particular story that I'm going to share had to do with my first year teaching at a school that I taught at for a long time. And this was obviously many moons ago. It was my first year at the school though. So when I got there, I learned that the policy was that like, in addition to all of the school break weeks, we had 10 days paid days off, right? 5 sick days and 5 personal days. And literally once I learned this policy before the school year started, it was immediately my goal to not take a single extra day off.
Yeah.
I was like, 10%. I'm not going to get sick. Even if I do, I'm going to push through. I'm a new teacher here. I want to make sure that like I'm coming off a certain way, whatever. And so I told myself preemptively, you're going to finish this year without taking a single day off. Because of the anxiety of missing things, falling behind, or my worst fear was just not meeting those expectations.
Yeah.
As you had said in your story, disappointing people, students, my assistant, my bosses. It was just, it felt too overwhelming. The idea of like letting people down. So because of this, I worked while I was sick, which meant that I worked while I wasn't at my best. When I needed a personal day, I didn't take one because it was like, no,
you couldn't control if you got sick or not.
I mean, so it's so funny because right now I'm like, I do this all the time. I tell myself, I'll look myself in the mirror and be like, you're sick.
No, I know.
When I start to feel, yes. When I start to feel a little sniffle or a little tickle in my throat, I'm like,
pull it together.
Nope, Margot.
Drink some hot tea.
Honestly, that's the kind of shit that I say to myself. I'm like, you will not be sick. Anyway, at the end of that year, my boss and my boss's boss came up to me and I feel like they even made an announcement like at our final year meeting, like Margot was the only person this year that didn't take a day off. And like people were like, woo. And then of course some teachers are like, man, like F you, right?
Yeah.
And I was like proud though. I'm like, that's right. I had that goal and I completed it and I was in control of it all, the whole thing. And so, I held that with me all summer. Right. And then I get back the following year and it was like 3 weeks into the school year. And I was so physically ill that my body was, I couldn't drive to work. I had no choice, right? My body was like, nope, you're sick. You couldn't control me from getting sick. You're done. You're taking the day off and maybe even the rest of the week. Like it was bad, So while I was home, I slept, I rested. I had no choice. But to let go completely, right? My body chose for me. But of course, I had that anxiety of like, what's going to happen now? I'm not there. How's everyone doing? Like the whole day when I wasn't sleeping or resting because my body was forcing me to do those things too, I was in anxiety about like what was happening. What was I missing out on? And so luckily I was able to return to work. Like I think it was the next day. Whatever it was just a 24-hour bug. I didn't have a fever or anything. So I felt good enough to go back, and having the one day was hard enough for me. Like, I don't even know what I would have done if it was 2 days in a row. And guess what? Everything was fine.
Oh my God.
Right.
The hot air balloon didn't deflate.
Nope. Everyone was fine. Everyone was so happy to see me. It was nothing but, how are you? Did you take enough time for yourself? I'm so glad you took the time. I know how hard that was for you. I actually had people say, I know how hard that was for you. And like my kids were all like hugging and, they were so little and smushy and cute. Like, so like, of course they missed me and I missed them,
Yeah.
But I was just like, oh my God, like I didn't take that long exhale, but when you mentioned that before, it was like my whole body exhaled. It was like, okay, I can not be here for a day and the ship won't go down. More transportation metaphors for you all, if you were missing them. So like, it was it was the most powerful aha moment because I realized that one, I don't have to be in charge all the time and everything will most likely be fine.
Yeah.
And that two, by letting go, I was not only serving my own needs, my own body and mind in that moment, but I allowed others to elevate and grow in my absence.
Yes.
And so then it became the practice of like giving more work that I would never have given to my teaching assistant to her, right? And knowing that she could do it and handle it. And having her, hopefully feel awesome about it too. And then being able to praise her for doing so amazing. And like, wow, you read that book way better than I probably would have in this moment because I wasn't feeling it, like, or whatever. And so we were able to lean into each other as opposed to just like, I'm going to let this person lean on me until I fall over and I'm sick. Right. And I mean, and she was, all of my assistants throughout my career were incredible. And my coworkers, everybody picked up the slack for each other. Like, honestly, I have no bad words to say about anyone I worked with. Especially not my teaching assistants, but, just knowing that like, not only can I ask her to handle things that she normally would handle in her role as teaching assistant, but I can give her like a shit ton more stuff to do, right? That like, it's just weighing me down. Right. So like lesson learned there. I learned that I could also allow others to support me and it didn't mean that I was lazy or less than. And that came up in your story. And I was like, yes, I'm not useless.
Yes.
I'm not lazy or like less than for needing the day off, or even just forget about taking the time off that I'm allotted. Right. It was more like I can not do that one thing because I need to pause right now, or my body's been telling me I need to use the bathroom for an hour and I haven't gone. And so like, I'm going to pass off this clear expectation to whoever's left in the room behind me. And I'm going to go spend 5 minutes in the bathroom and literally relieve my body of all that pressure. Right. So what's happened in the years since, continuously attuning to the moment, is an active practice. Checking in with my body, practicing becoming aware of my own personal triggers that occur when I'm fatigued and overwhelmed, and burnt out by any situation. Coming to realize that it's brave and a sign of strength to ask for help and seek support, and that missing things doesn't mean that things are going to fall apart and everyone's going to come crashing down.
Right.
And actually the biggest game changer for me was switching gears into teaching yoga and mindfulness to kids full time, as opposed to being in the classroom setting in a traditional way full time, because it just opened my eyes to the wonder that comes along with nothing but letting go of the rigidity of being a classroom teacher and having so many specific goals and milestones to hit that wasn't serving me anymore. And I don't really think it serves any kids, to be honest, but that's a conversation for another day. But like, for me and my anxiety journey, having that shift has been a game changer. Right. And so not just tapping into my own practice, but also doing something different with my life, right? Being able to still serve others and be responsible and keep kids safe and keep, everyone learning and happy and healthy and thriving and growing. But also like it's supporting my own well-being and mental health.
Right. And giving the kids the tools that they don't have to be perfect, and they can have a little control enthusiasm, but they don't need to micromanage their control. Right. You're passing down the tools to the kids too.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing is, because I do not want to forget this, my brain has been like, don't forget it. I love that you started off your story with saying how you were like the decider. And I was like, that's her like wrestling name. Like, now comes the decider.
Everyone to their feet cheering.
Yeah. She's here to make decisions for us.
Superpower.
But also what really struck me when you said that was that when I was a kid growing up, my uncle called me this, and then everyone thought it was really funny, and I kind of had the name of boss of the grown-ups. So you were the decider and I was the boss of the grown-ups. And I mean, I feel like both of those, are control enthusiasts right there.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah.
So I loved that. We have different names for a very similar personality trait. Okay, so one of the things that really stuck out to me was when you said how you were proud for not taking a day off. And I could be in that mindset, and I could relate to feeling that pride. But now when you hear that, what do you think?
I think that's a person that gets proud about things that are pretty stupid. Honestly, it's like, that's not something to be proud of, right? Because that person was not taking care of herself.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to call myself stupid.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so it's really, I don't mean it in a negative way towards myself or towards anyone out there that's done that or done something similar. But yeah, I think that's the mindset of a person who isn't caring for herself.
Right.
So.
Right. I mean, that's what I thought was when you said that, is like, what a commentary on what society tells us.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because we're only useful if we're productive. So if we're homesick, we're not productive, we're useless, we don't serve society, what's the point? Right. And so when you said that, I was like, wow, like I heard that as like a greater thing about like what society constantly tells us, right? Don't value your body, don't value your well-being, give it all for the man. I mean, I don't know,
or your deserved time off, right? Like, so what I came to learn too, it's so funny. I'm glad you brought this piece of my story back up, because like my last year at that school, for example, was like 7 years later. And I literally was like stoked to take all my days. I was like pre-planning them. I'm like, personal day, I'm over here. That's a long ass month. I'm going to go ahead and throw a personal day right in the middle of it. Right. And so like the pride had shifted completely. It was like, now I'm proud to be the kind of teacher who takes the time that she's deserving of, that she's allotted. Right. It's not like I'm taking extra days and being that person, but being proud of taking the time that I'm owed.
Right. You're
without guilt.
Air back in your hot air balloon.
That's right.
You're filling up the gas
pumping
tank.
It up.
You're fixing the rails of the train.
Gassing up. All the things.
Yeah. And then the other thing that you said in your story that I really, really appreciated, and I feel like, most people that experience control enthusiasm could also appreciate, is that when you let go of control, you gave other people the opportunity to grow, to learn, to shine, and that is such a gift, right? Rather than micromanaging every situation and every possible situation, it's like giving other people the chance to hold some of the weight, and then them learning and growing and thriving through it. And so I just really appreciated that part of it, because I think, sometimes it's like, well, why should I give up control? Right. And it's like, well, one of the reasons is because it can be a gift to other people too, so they can grow, so they can learn. Yeah.
No, I know. And it was a game changer, because then I felt like the weight was lifted, and that person was also elevated and saw themselves as something maybe more than just a teaching assistant. Right. It's like when you had started your story too, it's like you were a teacher's aide, then you became an assistant. Right. So like you wind up, when you're given more responsibility, when you are being trusted by your coworkers, and this doesn't have to go with work, right? When we're being trusted by the people in our lives, friends, family, loved ones, a partner, your children, right? Whatever, whoever, you are, that feeling of trust is only going to hopefully inspire that person to like, okay, this person has gifted me with like the opportunity to make myself proud, right? Not just them proud, but make myself proud, to try something I've never tried before, to push past a boundary or a comfort zone.
Right.
Totally.
Right.
So good. I just love how so much similarity in both of our stories. It was like, honestly crazy.
Unsurprising. But I loved when I was telling the story, your face just kept like just registering with like, yep, that.
Just a perpetual nod throughout.
So we've kind of shared some active practices, right?
Yeah.
But should we dive into a few more?
Yes, I think so. I think that we should leave the warriors with a potential takeaway here, something that they can try if they can relate to being a little bit of a control enthusiast, as we are. I think the first one I would say is to just think and reflect on what your intention is for the control in the moment.
Yes.
Is it to be helpful and useful? Is it because we think we know what's best? Is it because we've always been in control of that thing in the past?
Right.
Is it the fear of what will happen if you're not in control in the moment? Try to be honest and curious with yourself too about your answer. Because I know sometimes the narrative is just like, even when I'm talking to myself, I'm like, say something good, say something positive. Don't say the bad or dark thought that you're having. Right. So like be honest with yourself when you're reflecting about it. And I would say also that it might be really helpful and maybe fun to create opportunities for yourself to let go.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe start small. Like you had given the example of like, I think it was like loading a dishwasher or something earlier. And it was like the one that I had thought of was like, if you feel that your like kid's bed needs making every day, right? That's like a need in your household or, you know, a trait that you'd like to instill in your child, which I happen to think is a wonderful one, whatever. But maybe you're used to making it for them or making it in a certain way. When and if they come of age and they should be having that responsibility for themselves, kind of allow them to make the bed in the way that they see fit. And don't, as you mentioned before, micromanage a situation or fix it for them after they've left for school for the day or whatever. Make it their way and trust that they can get it done and that it's all still well with the world.
Yes. Yes. Don't instill perfectionism and people pleasing in them.
Yes, exactly. It's so good. No, it's such an important factor, right? Because these are the things we didn't want instilled in us, but the world keeps turning. That's the problem. No one says it out loud. Like, hey, you know, we're sending kids the wrong messages from a young age, from all directions, school, home, media, TV, movie, you know, it's all being fed to them in the wrong way. And finally, I would say, acknowledge that you have a need for control.
Yep.
Right. Say it. Call yourself a control enthusiast, right? Use whatever words sound good to you and let your people know that you're working on it.
Yeah.
I think this is a big piece too. Like invite them to call you out within reason, maybe not like literally every time you do something that seems controlling, like somebody tells you like, you're being controlling. Like no one wants that obviously, but like, you know, you can gently invite your kids, your loved ones, your coworkers, whoever to like, hey, you can, if you see that like, maybe it's like the third or fourth time this week that I've tried to control a situation for you. Like you can say something to me about it.
Yeah.
And then celebrate when you're able to let shit go. Like celebrate it.
Yeah.
Have it be your win.
And pay attention that it goes well. Like make sure, right? Because part of, I feel like being in control and the need for control is the moment we give up control, we look for the wrong. Right. So look for the right in it. Look for the thing that goes well. Don't look for the hot air balloon deflating. Look for where there's that extra tank of air. I don't know. but
we're beating this metaphor to death.
Yeah. It's just look for what's going well in the situation, because, you know, if our belief is that we need control and things will fall apart if we give up control, then when we give up control, we probably look for confirmation that things fell apart. So look for confirmation for the opposite.
Oh, love it.
Love it.
Perfection. All right.
That's good active practice.
Active practice. Oh, we didn't do our active practice beforehand. Whatever. Here it comes now. Active practice.
We've let go of control.
Look at that. We're so good.
Yeah.
Patting ourselves on the back. Let's send ourselves some sparkle and shine and twinkles right now. I think we deserve it. Warriors, stop what you're doing. Send up your twinkle fingers. Send yourself some sparkle and shine. You deserve it in this moment. And if you let go of anything today or this week, definitely send yourself those extra sparkles. Okay.
Oh,
I have a win of the week.
Win of the week. Win of the week.
Okay. So I'm like, can't believe I'm going to say this out loud. Mom, I know you're listening. I'm sorry if I'm disappointing you. So last night, Adam and I were driving to Panera for dinner. We were both very busy and we were bad or quote unquote bad. And we didn't cook anything or have any leftovers. And so I was like, oh, it's getting late. We need to figure out dinner. So we were both starving at that point. It was like 7:45 p.m., which is very late for dinner for me.
Yes.
So I'm driving us to Panera. We had pre-ordered and I kind of did like a rolling stop at a stop sign.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of ice on the ground and the weather's bad here. I mean, we had bad snow over the weekend. And so, but there was no one coming. I didn't see anyone around. I was like, I barely stopped at the stop sign and was rolling through. Adam looks to his right. He goes, there's a cop right there, like coming out of like a development, like a house, you know, like a condo development or whatever. I was like, oh my God. So I'm 39 years old. I've never been pulled over in my life.
Wow.
Yeah. Never once been pulled over. Again, something I was previously very proud of I think you can see where this is going, warriors.
Oh no.
So I was like literally freaking out, full on mini anxiety attack as I'm continuing to drive down this road. And so the cop makes the right, pulls behind me, doesn't flash any lights just yet. So I make sure to do like a perfect stop at the next stop sign, which is only just a few yards in front of me at that point. Perfect stop. But then of course, immediately afterwards, lights come on. I'm like, oh my God. I was like ready to cry / like my heart was pounding, was freaking out. Thank God. It was like God knew Adam needed to be there with me.
Yes.
So I pull over and, I don't want this to be a long ass story, but like the end of the day, the police officer was very kind. He saw that I was extremely nervous. I told him I was extremely nervous. I handed him all the proper things. Everything was fine. He said he would not give me a ticket. And that just please don't roll stop, especially with the ground being as it was, ice and everything. And so I said, yes, please, officer. No, I'm so sorry. Thank you very much. I very much appreciate you not giving me a ticket. So that was my win.
Oh my gosh.
And I had zero control over that situation. Yes. And so that was, well, to be fair, I had control over my vehicle and I was a bad driver in that moment.
Bringing it back to the vehicles again.
Look at that. I'm just somehow I know how to make things full circle with these crazy metaphors, even when I'm not trying. So that was my win. Something bad happened. It was out of control, or to me, it was bad because I was proud of my no pulling over record.
Yeah.
I've been driving, over 20 years. And so I was like, man, oh, well, but at least I didn't get a ticket. And so I'm going to do better.
Yes.
But it was still a win.
No, I mean, I felt like the weight on, or like the squeezing in my heart. And then when you said that everything worked out, I felt that weight lifted off, like, that very adrenaline pumping through. And then like, no, it's okay.
It's okay. It's all okay. And guess what? Now I'm not a delinquent because I got pulled over.
And
because there's that too. It's like that perfectionist brain in my head. I'm like, what happened to my perfect record? I mean, look, I've gotten a couple of red light tickets, like as New York has, I'm sure every state has them, right? It's like if you accidentally didn't stop and the light turned red when you were in the intersection for a second, you get a freaking ticket here. Certain lights have those cameras. So I've gotten a couple of those, but I had never been pulled over. So it was my first.
Well, welcome to the club.
Yeah.
I know. A new club now.
The cool kid club.
Say hello to your friends. Pulled over club. Say hello to the people who've been pulled over.
So good for anyone that has no idea what Abby's doing. She's definitely doing the Babysitters Club theme song. Yes. To all our fellow 90s kids. So good. Oh my goodness. All right, warriors. We hope that you love this episode, that you will take the time this week to think about your own control enthusiasm. If you have control enthusiasm, maybe you don't, in which case, good for you.
Help the other enthusiasts in your life.
Yeah, right. You'll be able to notice it in other people, I guess, and have more compassion for them. Most of us are not trying to be pains in the asses when we are controlling. We're really not. So if you are interested in reaching out to us for any reason, you can connect with us on Instagram. We're at Anxiety Warriors Podcast. We have lots of fun over there. Join our Instagram fam. If you'd like to send us an email, you can reach out at anxietywarriorspodcast@gmail.com and send us your wins of the week. If you think you'd be an awesome fit as a guest on our show, we'd love to connect with you. And last couple things, please smash that 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. If that's when you listen, show the world of podcast listeners that you're loving our show, so we can continue to grow our warrior fam. And leave us a review. And if you listen on Spotify, you can smash 5 stars over there as well. And we have some kick-ass merch up in our merch store. We had dropped some new designs. We, of course, have our go-to, the classic Anxiety Warrior 80s and 90s style design still up and available for you on all the things: mugs, hoodies, t-shirts, whatever you want, stickers, journals, bags. But we also have 2 new amazing designs that are up.
Yes.
I think these are our favorites so far. Like we love our Anxiety Warrior tees and sweatshirts and stuff, but like these designs, I'm obsessed with them. It's a hello, my name is tag that says recovering people pleaser on it. It's perfect to let you all know about it after this episode.
Yeah.
Right? Recovering people pleaser. If you're a recovering people pleaser, you need something with this on it. And then the other one is, we're always giving out all the sparkle and shine, all the twinkles to show that our heart sees your heart when we're talking to each other. We send that love through the sparkle, through the spirit fingers. We call it sparkle and shine and twinkles. And so we have that cool new logo up there as well.
Yes.
Snag your swag, support our show so we can keep making more of them.
Yep. Yes. Well, thank you so much for going on this journey with us. We're so grateful y'all are here.
We love you. Till next time.